everybody. Welcome back to Becoming Next on Scene. I am so excited to be here with the amazing Nipunika Coe, who is the founder of the Nika brand. She is a branding, marketing expert, and personal development coach all in one. Hi, Nipu. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jackie?
Good. I'm so sorry. I said your name right in the beginning. And I was like, Nipu. Oh my God. Like, we'd go over this. This is just what happens when you get excited talking.
Totally fine. Absolutely.
This is what happens. You look so pretty today in green for all my audience.
It's my favorite color. And it's actually one of my branding colors too. So I was like, okay, I'll put this on today.
Like, so suitable.
Yeah.
So for my audience who's not familiar with you, like, tell us how you fell into entrepreneurial space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have always been a firm believer in creating your environment of success. And I feel like we hear that a lot, but we don't know what that means. And I feel like in order to create your environment, you got to figure out what you don't want in it. And so I have, with that being said, I have always sought out opportunities which were higher than what I thought I could do. And that has led me into a lot of management roles and in different industries as well. And so what I learned through that experience is that I really love being creative, but I also like the business that goes with it. And so I was like, you know what? I have all the tools I need to be my own boss. So how can I do this in a creative way? And how can I do this in a way that empowers other people? Because that's truly how I heal from my past experiences being in foster care for 8 years. And it's really taught me how to engage with people. So I was like, how can I bring all of that together in one? And that's when I kind of thought of the Fingerprint Method. And that is a marketing method that I thought of to really figure out what makes you unique. And once you figure that out, you can create an imprint that lasts.
I love that. I feel like marketing is all about imprints, right? Like from one marketing girl to another. Like, yes. That's so important and valuable. So tell us more about this new venture of this method. So how long has it been created? Tell us all about it.
So so many other things. It was definitely a COVID quarantine downtime kind of invention and idea. And I was like, it's good. It's universal. And I didn't quite get, not to toot my own horn, but I didn't quite get how great it was or how impactful it could be until I actually had a company try to take it. So I was like, okay, this is it. I have to figure out a way to make this mine and trademark it and then just run with it. So that's kind of how it started, and how I implement it is, so the fingerprint, I break it down into your vision, your mission, your brand, what makes you unique. So your personal story, believe it or not, will subconsciously or consciously intervenes into how you do business. So I think it's really important to take a look at that. And then it all comes together into storytelling, because marketing and sales, when it comes down to it, it's all about storytelling. So that is kind of the catalyst of the fingerprint. And so the discovery process is discovering all of that, taking that, and I don't just say, okay, now we figured out your fingerprint, have fun. So we take the fingerprint and then we create graphics and content and the marketing behind that fingerprint. And then we rebrand yourself or rebrand your idea, and then we push it out into the world. And that I think is, after finding your fingerprint, that is the most important part, because, art is a great discipline, but if you don't have the analytics behind it, it's just art no one sees.
So true. Really good point. And I also want to talk about your backstory, coming out of foster care.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So inspiring. So what advice would you give to somebody that really wants to make something of themselves, because when you're in that space, you're in such a different mental space, right? Absolutely. So talk about that. I'm so interested.
So, I call it the pit. And when you've gone through a lot of things, you kind of fall in the pit a lot. And you really want to remind yourself about how that felt, because when you want to take your eye off the ball and you want to say, I'm doing okay, I can just coast for right now. that's when you kind of fall backwards into that pit. And the more you go back into it, you realize, oh shit, sorry, excuse my language.
Oh, no,
I shouldn't have done that. So, and another thing that I'd like to think, remind everyone, and it's actually the two analogies and metaphors I use for the title of my upcoming book. It's called Oceans and Butterflies. And I picked that title. I've thought of so many titles along the years because I've been writing it for a long time because it's been a heal in progress. And so it's called Oceans and Butterflies, because oceans, I was born in Sri Lanka and grew up there for a little bit, reminds you that everything that happens in your life is like a wave. And you have a choice. Once that wave comes, you can let the wave knock you out. And if it does, you can choose to stay under and not get back up and you can drown, or you can get up and say, you know what, that wave is not as big as the one I just hurdled over. So I'm going to choose to jump over it. And when you do that enough times, it seems like, oh, that seems so draining. But when you do it enough and you give yourself a little bit of motivation to keep going, you look back and you're like, that wave that I just jumped over would have pummeled me to my ass, 2 years ago. So that is where the oceans part comes in. And it's always been my happy place. And then butterflies comes in because when I was in foster care, one of my social workers gave me a card. And I think it was when one of my foster brothers was getting adopted and I wasn't yet. And so she gave me a card and it said, just when the caterpillar thought the world was ending, it turned into a beautiful butterfly. And that was on blue with white writing. And so that kind of always stuck with me. And then about 3 years ago, when I met my partner, John, his mom knew nothing about me, but she sent us a card and it was white with blue writing, the same exact quote. And she was like, you two have something special, always take care of each other. So it's
I'm getting emotional.
I know, isn't that crazy? So it's always come back around in my life, no matter what. And I really think about the caterpillar to the butterfly analogy. And I think my one advice that kind of threads through everything I've said is, no matter what, don't forget the caterpillar you were, because that's where people find power. That's where people relate to you. And it's important to talk about the caterpillar of yourself just as much as it is to talk about the butterfly.
I love the analogies because I'm thinking about your fingerprint method, and I'm totally is all part of that. It's so inspiring and so
cool. It's amazing. And that's another thing to do, is sit back and be like, oh, I remember when I was so upset about that, but that's what led me to this.
So true.
And when you do that, kind of blows your mind. I don't recommend doing it a lot because you'll just keep your wheels spinning. But yeah, so that's a good point. It really does connect to the fingerprint method and everything. So
when are you going to launch this book? Have you thought about that yet?
So I wrote the first version and I realized I don't want my story to be about hurt, because that's not what it's about. It's not about mistakes. It's about lessons. And it's not about what other people have done to me. It's about the lessons I learned from that hurt. So I wrote the angry version, right? You gotta let it out. So I wrote the angry version, and now I'm doing it more from the butterfly's perspective instead of the caterpillar perspective, because the caterpillar is angry. I mean, she wants to fly, but the butterfly is the one that teaches, right? So I am rewriting it. And as I was rewriting it, I was like, I don't want my story to just be about foster care and getting out of foster care and doing all these amazing things. I want to create a brand and a fingerprint for myself that, takes the story into account, but they can say, oh, so it's not like, oh, she's successful for a foster kid. She's successful, period.
I love that.
So that's why I was like, I'm going to start my business, and you know what? The book is going to come when it comes, but I do have a goal and a date, because the saying, if you give someone 2 hours, they'll get it done in 2 hours. like if you give them, a week, they'll get it done in a week. Right. So I am hoping by 2020, by February, I don't know why, 0222 seems right. So I'm going to try to publish it by that date.
That's so exciting. Are you into spirituality and stuff? Because numbers mean things. I'm huge into that.
Yeah, I definitely am. And I am a very intuitive person. And I think it came off as a survival skill. So I think when someone develops intuition as a survival skill, it's so much deeper than someone that just wants to, play into it and figure it out and see if they have it. Because survival is like, flight or flight. So you either have it or you don't. So there was definitely, other than lessons, there's definitely been a lot of underlying spiritual aspects that have grown with me through the foster care system and outside of it. So I absolutely use that. And, that's honestly the reason I'm in front of you today, is because I did a lot of soul searching when you reached out to me. And I was like, I don't know if this is right, because I did just start this business. And I do have 3 clients already, which I don't even know how that happened. but so I was like, I don't know if this is the right time. And then right after I read through your stuff, I went on your Instagram and you posted like 20 minutes ago or like 10 minutes ago, something that resonated with me. So I was like, okay, this is right.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. And congrats on being a rising entrepreneur, because you're awesome.
Thank you.
You're doing awesome stuff. So who is your ideal client? And how can people reach out and learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. I think so. I just revamped my website. So it's www.thenikabrand.com. And there you can find all the information that you need. You can book even just a free 20-minute consult call with me, so we can chat and get to know each other a little bit too. Or if you're ready to dive in, you can do that as well. And I think my ideal client would be someone that is kind of stuck, whether it's their initial idea and they haven't launched yet. So I just helped someone with a healthcare app during the pre-launch, and they just launched last week and they've been getting amazing results. So that was really exciting. So that's an ideal client, because then we can really create your imprint and your fingerprint and from the scratch. But I also like working with people that are like, this is, I think, what I want, but I'm also trying to figure out how I can revamp this into the new product that I'm bringing out. And as the seasons change, those are always ways to rebrand yourself. So I feel the same way with business. So my ideal client is going through a change of some sort, whether it's changing industries and they're picking up a new idea. So I'm really good with taking an idea and figuring out how to put it out there. Or expanding on the idea. So that is my dream client, but I can also work with anyone that's going through a transition or a change.
Freaking awesome. That's exciting about that tech company. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Able to share about them so people can look them up and support them too? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Sponsor Motion. And what they do is they're focusing on the rare disease community. And so basically, if you had a rare disease, there's so many options out there for sponsorships that you might not know about. So Sponsor Motion really kind of brings it all together. So if you had a rare disease, you can go on and fill out a little profile, and then it'll say, oh, Dr. So-and-so will sponsor you to get a blood transfusion. So it's really one of those sites and apps that helps other people, and it's completely free unless you want to do some add-ons to your profile and add-ons to what you'll get out of it.
Talk about an inspiring company. That's amazing.
Yeah, they're awesome. They are absolutely amazing.
So what would you find from marketing person to marketing person? What are a lot of people struggling with, through the pandemic, marketing wise? They come to you and they're like, okay, Nipu, this is where I'm struggling. What do you find customers and consumers are struggling with?
I think, and it goes back to figuring out your imprint and what makes you unique is figuring out there's so many ways to market yourself. and you should market, like you've said, you know, you need to use more than one platform. You need to figure out what best platform is good for your industry, especially with multi-company industries out there. You can kind of look on the backbone and look on the success of others, which you should do a little bit, but you also need to bring it back to yourself. And so I think what clients have come out to me about and reached out to me about is saying, you know, I want to stand out and I want to be unique, but how do I do that? Because there are a lot of free services and websites that you could use, but if you don't know how to utilize them, then you shouldn't be. Yeah.
No, that's solid advice. Cause I do think that there is value, but it's also having that like accountability and like actually like doing it the right way too.
Yeah.
Right. Cause you could think you're doing it the right way, but working with somebody who actually knows what they're doing, there's a difference.
Absolutely. And that's why ideal clients, right, are the ones that are like, okay, I have a new idea. I haven't done anything. It's like, great. We don't have to rework or like erase everything you've done. And, you know, so absolutely. And I think it's great. I mean, I understand when you're first starting out, you might need to do a lot of things yourself. But it's important to invest in yourself and invest in your business if you don't want to be the statistic that says, you know, 95% of businesses within the 5 years fail. Totally. So it's really about creating your foundation at the start to ensure that when you build those walls, it's not going to crumble down.
Yeah, that's solid advice. Love that. Okay, so how can people reach out? I want to play game time with you afterwards. Okay. How can people reach out, stay in touch, and get in touch for a consultation?
Absolutely. So www.thenikabrand.com. And the great thing about having a unique name is if you need to find me, I'll be the first person that pops up on anything. So Nipunika Coe is my Instagram as well. If you want to reach out personally, I would be more than happy to chat with you.
Freaking awesome. Yeah, everybody needs to follow Nipu. She's doing amazing. So it's so awesome to like watch, like really so cool. All right, so are you ready for game time?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no like rush with how fast you have to answer them. This is just like a really fun way for us to get to know you better. So what is Nipu's favorite food?
Oh, Sri Lankan food, hands down. Okay. So whenever I go somewhere new for vacation, I always look to see if there's Sri Lankan food. And I love it so much that I drove. So we had one in Cambridge in Massachusetts, and it closed down during COVID. So I drove 3 hours to go get Sri Lankan food and come back.
That's love. That's love. Okay, so people are not familiar, because I'm not either. Like, what is that food? Like, break it down.
Yeah, so Sri Lanka is a little tiny island. It's right south of India, and that was where I was born, and it's shaped like a teardrop. And Sri Lankan food, you know, I was reading these articles. A lot of chefs are doing a lot of Sri Lankan infusion because our spices and the way that we cook is unique in the fact that it takes time. And like, you know, they're like, oh, everything just has curry powder in it, but that's not true. There's different types of curry powder that goes into things. And to me, it's a personal connection because it reminds me of where I grew up and it reminds me of my birth mom. So yeah, it's just a comfort food for me, but it's so good. If you haven't tried it, please do.
So when you drove 3 hours, where did you go? Like where
I went to, I want to say it was New London, Connecticut. It was a place called Cinnamon Grill, and they like just opened, I think, like 2 months prior. And I was like, I'll be there in about like 2 hours ish, 2 or 3 hours. They're like, what? So I told them I drove all the way there. They're looking at me like I'm crazy. I was like, you guys don't know how lucky you are. You get this all the time.
Seriously. Like, yeah. That's like, should be written up about.
Literally.
That's awesome. Okay. So where is your favorite place you've ever traveled to? And what's a bucket list place you want to go to?
Ooh, that's a good question. My favorite place. I think California. I did a cross country, just like pitching a tent kind of road trip a while ago, and I went all over the country, and California was where I spent the most of the time, and I went up and down the coast. And what I like about the whole state of California is like Northern California, Central California, Southern California, all completely different. And it was just a really unique, what I call it, like a green zone energy place. So I really liked California, but a bucket list place is, I definitely want to go back to Sri Lanka, but I'm scared about going back there because I haven't been there for, I think, over 20 years now. So it's changed a lot and it's more Americanized. So I don't know if it's the utopia that I remember in my head.
And you don't want to like be sad, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe after I publish the book, I'll go back.
Okay.
But until then, I'm going to keep this mind and imagery that I have. So
you create like new memories there too.
Yes,
right? That's really the truth, right? New beginnings. Yes. That's always my motto. I love that. Okay. If you could wear one outfit for the rest of your life, what would it be from head to toe and why?
A dress.
Okay.
I love dresses because I think a lot of people, if I'm wearing a dress, I'm probably having a bad day. Because putting on pants and putting on multiple layers of clothing for me is just like too much work sometimes. So if I throw on a dress, I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. So I'd be wearing a dress. My hair would probably be up like in what John calls a Cindy Lou Who bun. And then sandals, and I would be good to go.
That sounds great. Do you have a favorite dress? Even though you said dresses would be probably not your best taste, but that's fine.
Yeah, which now that I think about it, I have more dresses than anything. I have this one dress that is yellow and it has butterflies all over it. And it just, I love it. And I wore it so much that I had to like cut it up and figure out a different way to wear it. And then finally I was like, okay, it's time to let go of this dress. So I have to find a new dress, but that was my all-time.
You'll find another one with butterflies, right?
Okay, yes.
I hope that. That's special. All right, cool. Next question. If you could spend a day with somebody, dead or alive, you've never met, who would you choose and why?
Dead or alive. I would definitely choose my grandma from Sri Lanka. So when my mom left, my birth mom left to come to America. So quick backstory is she told me it was like a few days before my 3rd birthday, and she used to make wedding cakes in Sri Lanka. And she told me she was going to go make me a cake. So I was just like playing in the driveway. I was like, okay, cool. Sounds great. So she actually went and left to go to America. And so after that, my grandmother I like latched onto her. Like she was everything. And I, until the day she died, I never got to see her after the age of 5. I was always her favorite. And, when she couldn't remember anyone else, she always remembered me. And I like wouldn't let go of her. And she's actually the reason that I'm in the United States, because she told my mom, she's like, Nipu can't grow up here without a mother. So I've always felt like this super special connection to her. And this is actually her bracelet. And I've been wearing it, like it's like almost breaking off, but I haven't taken it off in almost a decade now. So if I had to pick anyone, it would definitely be her.
That's amazing. And what about somebody you haven't met? Like you've never met, dead or alive?
So I really, really like, growing up as a person of color, there wasn't a lot of people I could look up to. And one person that really just inspired me, and not because she's beautiful and not because she's famous or she's an actress, but because of the way that she presents herself and because of the way that she speaks. I really like Priyanka Chopra. I've always looked up to her, and I know a lot of people, there was like one thing that she said that a lot of people have been kind of grilling her on, but we do all have those off days. And it does suck that, like one of my professors said in college, people don't remember how beautiful you're dressed, but they'll remember seeing your slip. So, don't let your slip show is what she always told me. And that's the thing, like you can be a great human being, you can be amazing, but if you mess up once, that's what people are going to remember you by. And I don't want to do that to her. So I really, that's the person I would sit down and meet. Like John got me a signed autograph of her for Christmas, and then he got me a promise ring. And I didn't cry when he got me the promise ring, but I cried.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So that's how much like I don't fangirl over anyone or anything, but I would over her for sure.
That's so awesome. I feel like you imprinted me with that. That was like really powerful stuff there. I never thought about like the flaws, like the one flaw, like really outshines, unfortunately, how much
it sucks. Yeah. And it's hard not to let your slip show sometimes, right? Because we're all human and you want to be like, fuck this, but it's true. Like you got to figure out a different outlet. And I'm glad my professor taught me that because I found it to be so true. At first I was like, what? But now I understand it even more.
I love it. Okay, 2 more questions. Are you a coffee or a tea person?
Tea. I'm drinking tea right now.
I know. What kind of tea are you drinking?
So this is Sri Lankan tea. And what you do is it's black tea and you cut up fresh slices of ginger into it. And then you put a little bit of cardamom and a little bit of milk and sugar to your taste. But I put a lot of sugar. And it's really, really good.
That sounds delicious.
It's so yummy.
Love that. Okay. And final question. What is going to be my final question? Okay. Where do you see yourself a year from now?
A year from now. I love that. It's just a year from now.
Yeah. Cause I think thinking out that far, I've learned in my business, like I need to be a little bit more present. I'm like 5 years. I can't even think about that yet.
I was like, what? A year from now, I hope to be living in Austin, Texas, or anywhere warm, honestly. Living somewhere that I love, that I am a published author, maybe doing some book tours or doing podcast interviews and really figuring out my ideal client base and maybe having a wait list.
I love that.
For clients.
Really solid.
That would
be perfect. I love it.
Yeah. So I'm going to put that in my calendar, actually, now that you made me think that. And now I committed to it out loud. I'm going to put it in my calendar.
That's a big thing. That's a big manifestation. Yeah. That's super good. I love that. Okay. So thank you so much for coming on today. You're awesome. Tell everybody again how they can follow you on social media, reach out, and all the things. Thank
you so much, Jackie. This has been healing for me too. I don't know if you know that, but it has been.
I'm so glad.
So you can reach out to me through my website. It has all of my contact information on there. It's www.thenikabrand.com. And like I said, the good thing about having a unique name is you can just look up my name and I will pop up on Instagram as well. If you just want to talk to me personally or you want to talk about anything, just feel free to reach out.
Thank you everybody so much for tuning in to Becoming Next on Scene, and stay tuned for who's next on Scene.